Buenas tardes a todos.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jorge Lanza. My colleague is on the first row. He doesn't want to come up here. So let's do a presentation. The mobile kills the smart card. It's Alberto's idea. But he would choose this title to make it more catchy. We go back to the 80s when the radio kills the radio star. What we want to do with this workshop is to make an introduction to the smart card. I'm going to ask you a question. You know what is the smart card? And now the second question. How many of you have paid today with your credit card? How many of you have used the bus? How many of you have used your ID card just to show it to someone? Unfortunately, very few people use it. How many of you, if you have Apple Pay, have paid with your mobile? How many of you, if you have Android, have paid with your mobile? I'm sure that more than one person here would say, yes, I've paid with that. All this that we've done and this thing that we have in our wallets, these are smart cards. It's the technology that we will explain in this presentation. This small plastic square was read by readers. Now we just touch them. This is about a presentation, understanding how this technology works, how we can communicate with it, and last but not least, you see what happens with Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and all these options for mobile payments, and to use your mobile for most of transactions that you do during the day. That's the trend. That's the future. Things that we can do with our smart cards. It's something that we can migrate to a mobile phone. That's the reason for the title. But we're not going to teach you how to hack. We're not going to generate malware. No, this is just an introductory talk to know how to exploit the functionalities of a technology that we use daily, and most of us, we don't even know how it works. From the technology point of view, I think it's interesting to know more. This is the idea behind my presentation. There's been hacking in the smart cards. And everything comes from our wallet. So especially it's problems for the banks because they have to pay for any security breaches. So security problems are easily detected when we talk about payment. So my intention when we thought about this workshop and seeing the room and the people, I brought material here so that people who has his or her own PC or computer, we can do it here. How to send a command to a card, how to read with a card with a mobile. I want to do something more manual, but due to the layout of this room, we can't do it. Fine. The presentation is divided into these points. We have almost 2 hours. I hope I will have time for everything. I just love talking, and sometimes I just diverge. We'll say who we are, and then an introduction to the smart card. What are the main features? Then we'll see basic concepts of cards. What is the internal architecture? What we have in our trousers is a small computer. What type of cards? How they work on various modalities, with contacts or contactless. We'll see the security in cards. Why those intelligent or smart cards are so robust? What are the implications? And last but not least, we'll talk about mobile technology. Our mobile phones will remove the use of smart cards in the street. Credit cards removed the money and coins. And now the mobiles are going to kill the smart cards. That's the final question. We'd like to open a debate, if you're still here. Who are we? Alberto and myself were two teachers and researchers in university. We are researchers and then we are teachers in the telematic technology group in the University of Cantabria here. We work also in the University Master's Program, and in research we work on the Internet of Things, wireless networks, network planning, 5G, etc. We do something in security, and then this is the part of smart cards. And you may say, why these guys started to work with smart cards? Well, in the year 1995, I started to work in university, because I'm an oldie now. In 95, the University of Cantabria wanted a system to identify the students with security. In the past, we had a different system. In some other universities in Spain, there was a specific system. What we did, we had a piece of paper with a photo, with a name, and then a stamp. That was it. There's no security there. I always remember that I had a transportation grant, and it was just a piece of cardboard. You could replace your photo with a photo of a colleague, and the colleague was called Jorge, and there was no problem. The driver wouldn't mind, so it was easy to have fake cards, but you could replace your face with another face, and so you could save a lot of money in buses. This happened to book the gym, or so people in the university, the managers realized that this was no security. We need something more robust to guarantee that things are going to be done properly. So they spoke with this Banco de Santander, this bank in Santander, that has a program called Santander Universities, which tries to help universities for very specific purposes. In this case, our director told the people in the bank, we want to have a more secure platform. And there was a university in Europe, in Louvain, in Belgium, and the director said, I want that type of card they have, the Belgians. So the people in the bank gave us this card. This card was okay. It worked easily. It wasn't easy to hack. But we realized that the services that we could offer with the card weren't enough. We wanted to have something more in the card. That's why when we started to work there in the year 2000, there was a task force. And these are the logos. It was orange. That wasn't really present at the time. But then there were acquisitions and mergers. Orange did appear. We had a team composed of Banco Santander, the University of Cantabria, Gemalto, leader in distribution and manufacturing of smart cards and for safety too, and Orange. So we wanted to have a team, and it's called the Technology Observatory of the Smart Card in university. A long name, OTOC, that's the name. We wanted to explore the various possibilities of smart cards, first within university, and then, why not, use it for other purposes. What did we want? To improve the functionalities of our university cards. We wanted to give it more flexibility and dynamism in the content. I had a card with my data. I couldn't do anything else with it. We wanted to include something more. I could customize my data as a student. using the same platform as other people in other universities, they could have a customized card according to your university and to have more usages. If I customize it, I could include more applications in this card. So we wanted to give life to our card. That's what we did. Here you see all the services that this card had in a single card. These are external and internal applications in the card. This card cannot have just one type of application. A card can contain many applications, the same as we have in our computers or my mobile. I can go to the store and download an application. I can do the same with a card, but I don't have a store for the moment. I like to have that in university. I don't have a store with applications, but I may have applications inside the card that I can use. That's the reason why not many people in the world work with smart cards. In Spain, with the exception of people, Gemalto or JID or Vertor, these are manufacturers, or CNMT for our ID card. This ID card at national level is very powerful. 3.0. We should use this digital ID card. It's full of applications. So your ID card is expensive because you can do a lot of things with it and nobody does anything with the ID card. Let's see the functionalities of these cards so that we can start using them. So I always start with this. It's my wallet. As you can see, it's kind of a brick more than a wallet. This is a part, but lately I don't want to take all this. I have another card set in my pocket with lots of papers. These are the ones I use in my daily life. I pay with these. This is university card, another for payment, another one for the gym. Then I have the bus card, etc. These series of cards, well, that's what you have in your pockets too. And I'm sure I'm right. What do you think? I'm not a magician. I'm not a magician, but if I could do this, wow, all these cards, we can have them all in just one card. Would you buy my idea? Of course. Technology allows for that in a single card. All these cards could be in just one, in a single one. All these cards could be moved to my mobile. This is allowed by technology. Why don't we do it? I don't know. It's always the same. Commercial interests. Many people around, many businesses. I always making publicity. I have an American Express card, and people know it's an American Express. If I have a Visa, people say, "Oh, he's got a Visa, golden Visa. He's got money because he's got a golden Visa. It's not a normal Visa card." So it's about image, marketing. In a mobile phone, you can't really see it. A mobile is a mobile. I've never seen a mobile when I want to pay. Just an example. It's a Santander Bank because we are here and part of our funding comes from there. When I pay with my card, my Apple or my iPhone, it's not red. It doesn't turn red because I pay with my Santander credit card. So we have all these cards in our pocket, but these cards can be inserted in just one device. What we would like to do is that, well, the more cards you have, the better. Wow, all these cards. People will say, he's rich because he's got 20,000 cards. Well, I'm not rich, I'm not poor. Half of my cards are useless. In fact, I have many operations in various banks. And all of these companies and banks want to give you a card. If I had just one, I would be happy. But when I lose my wallet, what happens? I have to go and call everyone to get a new card. If I had just everything in just one single device, if my content was centralized, I would call just one single number saying my card has been lost with everything inside. Please send me another card, the identical card. So I would save time, money.
To a certain extent, what I'm telling you about here may sound like utopia, but technology allows you to do it. But you need the systems so that they operate properly. Okay, the cards that I've shown you, basically on the outside, they just look like they had different colors. That's all you can see. Although externally they might be green and red, the Cantabrian University one's green, and I've got the bus card here as well. This card doesn't have anything, doesn't have a contact strip or anything. It's just a grey sort of card, you might say to me. Well, you should have thought that when you got in the bus, you put the card near somebody so that a reader can read it. And when you're going to pay, those cards that you have in your pockets have some contacts, a chip, like a gold-colored chip. You put it in something, somebody touches it when you used to swipe it in the past. And there, you need to see that although externally they're very similar, something makes you that when you go to the bus, you just have to touch it onto the reader. But if you're going to pay for something, you have to put it into it. That means the different technologies used by the cards are different. So they have the security measures so that you can't copy them. Some of them have holograms, but inside they've got an antenna, they've got a microchip. Some have graphs, some have a storage ability, which is what means we can use them in different ways. What's behind all of this? I've said to you that they're all different. So now let's look at how the first cards evolved to the most recent ones. The first cards that we used, remember them? They had a magnetic strip. All started, had a typical banking card with a magnetic strip. Then we got chips, but why did we get these magnetic strip cards? This technology is just really like a strip on these typical VHS cassettes, VHS video cassettes, or the ones that you had on tape recorders that you put a biro in to rewind them. It was before we had mobiles or anything like that. These magnetic strips are basically on these cards the same sort of thing as you get in a tape player, these or videotape. And so just with a reader, you could read the information that's contained within it. What happened with these cards? They're not smart. They're just data storage devices, and they have limited data on them. So what happens? Here there was something that needs to be improved. And how did it happen? Well, it happened because a gentleman here in the US called Mark McNamara went to pay. He was a very wealthy guy. And he went to a bar or a restaurant or some great place. And he said, I want to pay. And he said, oh, no, I don't have any cash. And imagine if it happens to you and we're not very wealthy, but imagine if it's somebody that's got thousands of millions of dollars and he says he can't pay and suddenly thought, I've got to have something that identifies me as a person that's got money so that I can pay. That's when cards started. That's when the magnetic strip was added. The magnetic strip initially had just information about the person, but they're so easy to fake that security layers were added. But there's a problem. We could still carry on copying these cards, carry on copying them, and if you can copy something, you could probably reuse it. Do you think that the information that the people that have done it got a pin anchored into the cards. No. The pin's not clear in the card, but it's encrypted so that people don't know the pin if you read the magnetic strip. So remember that the pin isn't in the magnetic strip. But if the card, which has that magnetic strip, which is not smart but actually dumb, when the card carries out a transaction, it's not able to identify the person that's doing the transaction. In the past, if I went to a cash machine, I put my card in the cash machine could read the card, and so if I type my PIN in, that's okay. They say that, okay, this card belongs to this gentleman. But did we know that the cash machine was the cash machine that we thought it was? There was no way for the card to check the cash machine. You think if you go to the cash machine with a card, you think you're going to the bank, and all those things you've seen on the television of people who have taken money out with copied cards. That's because the card doesn't identify the cash machine. And that's where things, so just when I said remember the PIN number, I don't know if you've noticed that you say many magnetic strips have been copied, and of all the problems with security you've had, there's always a security camera in the middle of it. They see, somebody sees you typing your PIN, so they say, oh no, cover your hands, so can't people see it. As the pin's not clearly in the card, even if they copy your magnetic strip, they still need to rob you to have your PIN number. That's why this way of getting money out of cash point comes in this way, these programs that record. But that's because the card isn't able to identify the cash machine. If the card can identify the cash machine, the card would be able to detect that the cash machine had been modified, and they would reject the operation. So automatically they check each other and reject the operation. And that's where the new thing comes along that we need. And this new thing that we need is a smart card. Okay, you've seen the evolution so far. I don't want to talk about protocols. I'm trying to make it easy to understand. Let's hope we've got time. What's a smart card? I define it as the following. There's probably more technical definitions, but what it is a bit of plastic. Usually this plastic has an embedded chip, and this embedded chip gives the card smartness or not, because it may be an embedded chip that isn't smart. What's this chip look like? Well, the chip follows the architecture of a von Neumann machine. It has a CPU, it has a ROM memory, and then a RAM memory, and another one which is a bit like a hard disk. That's what a card is. That's what the architecture of a smart chip is. And many of you, I'm sure you've opened the computer of your house, and everything that I'm telling to you is what you've got in your computers. All you need is some kind of a ventilator or some kind of a light to make it look like a computer. But that's what it is. If you look, it's exactly the same as what you've got in a computer. What else do you need? You've got a microchip, you've got memory, and then you need an input and output interfaces, which on a computer today are screens and keyboards and anything else that you can put up there. Other kinds of things. So here, the input and output interfaces are these yellow contacts. I'll show you a couple of photos of them. Below them is where you've got the microchip. And when I put the card into a reader, the reader is able to send signals and feed the card, because these cards don't have a battery. You can plug your computer in, but these don't have batteries. And there's another kind of card who, instead of having chips, what they have is a little antenna. And this antenna, what it does is it has some readers that send these wireless sounds. And some people say, you know, they produce cancer or they don't, or whatever. But they're very low power. It's not like the mobiles. But anyway, the thing is, there's some readers that induce a current, and this current induced within the card is sufficient not just to feed it, but also to send data to it. So the signal is sent not just food, it doesn't just feed it, but it gives it data. So you've got contactless and contact data. And so what somebody actually had the great idea of joining both things, both of them together. If you look at your banking cards, you'll have some little icons, which are like little antenna. But you've also got the contacts. So you can have a contactless payment and other not, but you can use both. And both interfaces are accepting the same, accessing the same microchip, the same memory in the same way. To give you a comparison, the oldest of you in the room, I don't know who the previous speaker, what his name was, but when he showed these computers from university, this friend of his had done all these things. All these computers were the ones that we used. When I started out working here, these are the ones that we use. And there you can see that these computers, like the Commodore C64 and the IBM 5100, the functions offered by these computers are actually far more limited than the smart card that you have today. So just gives you an idea of the technological development that the world has undergone. What I find fun when I had my Spectrum and I spent 10 to 15 minutes trying to get into a game and all the noise it made, and at the end of the day, the game fell apart. You youngsters haven't seen that. There's sometimes it's worthwhile looking back in time to understand why we are where we are today. And when I teach at university, I always like youngsters to see the old side of things, because they're gonna, if they see the old things, they'll see how far we've advanced. Wireless technology. What was the first thing that you did when you came here today? You asked for the wireless password. When I started in IT, there was no internet. The internet that existed when it arrived was really expensive. There were no mobile phones. If you had a mobile phone, you were the greatest of the great. And now everybody has a mobile phone. So a little bit of this workshop is educational. And it's important to understand, because we've understood how technology has evolved, but youngsters today take technology as something that's normal, and they do things without thinking about them. And I think some people have already heard me say this: be careful what you upload onto Facebook or Twitter. Don't think just because everybody else does it, it doesn't matter. If you raise your hand, if you actually read the terms and conditions when you access Gmail or Twitter, nobody ever raises their hand. Nobody ever reads these terms and conditions. So I'm a bit of a weirdo because I always read them. Anyway, there you see how we've evolved to such an extent that now our cards have more capacity than the initial computers. So it's got a CPU, processor, it's got communication interfaces, memory, and what does it offer us? It's adaptable, dynamic, flexible, it's easy to use. I mean, how do you know? Who here doesn't know how to use a banking card? Honestly, for goodness sake. Okay, so it's easy to use, it's good performance. When we go and pay for the bus, or you use the underground, or you carry out an operation, it seems instantaneous. I mean, it does things really quickly. And what about the cost? It's for you, it's free, because the bank doesn't charge you for having this card. Or maybe they charge you 15 euros if you're overdrawn, but normally it's free. And if the one on the bus, maybe it's €1 or whatever. But it's very, very attractive. And also it follows a series of standards. Virtually all cards are standardized in the way they operate. And it's important because we talk a lot about security, but the fact that they meet standards, that means that it's much easier to keep these systems securities, because if a standard breaks, the standard that's broken, if lots of people are using it, you'll find a solution and somebody will realize that and publish it, or that's their intention. But if I've got proprietary systems, they're mine, and you can publish them or not. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, I heard about the route to access Apple's. But the same with the operating system of Windows. With the Apple operating system, we don't know what's happened. But if we use standard systems where everybody have them, the most logical thing was that somebody would have given the solution to solve it. That's why I say a lot of the standards are there, because I think it's a very important part of cards. So I've given you the characteristics. We've got contact cards and contact-less cards. It's a piece of plastic with a microchip in it. Let's have a look at a photo of a card. That's what a card looks like. It's an X-ray of a card. I didn't do the X-ray. And the other one is the X-ray of the Canterbury University, well, actually of any university around the world, because they're standardized systems. They're functionalities that can be used, and there are lots and lots of places where you can use it. It's the same university card that you can use anywhere around the world. And what's more, we're lucky that much of the development of these cards came from this university, so there you've got it. I need a laser pointer, but here you can see the chip. And the thing is, you can't see what's below the chip, believe me. There you can see the antenna. And on the right, you can see one which has got an antenna all the way around the card. That's a university card. On the left, you've got a card which just has the antenna in the middle of it. There you can see where it says Maestro. So it's a payment card, of course. Why in one case do you have the antenna all the way around and the other just in the middle? Maybe I'll give you the reply. If you look, when you pick up a credit card, it's got it'll have a name on it, sort of embossed on it. Imagine that they embossed it on top of the antenna. That would really destroy the antenna. So, in these cases, today, what they've done, and this is all standardized as to where you put it, they only have the antenna in that part of the card so as not to get it destroyed when somebody embosses your name on it. However, the university one, and this is mine here, the university one, this card, is completely flat. They just screen print my name, and they don't need this raised, embossed. Some people are saying to me, what's this? These people. Things have evolved a lot. But anyway, this card is not going to be used. It doesn't need to be embossed, so it's like a printer that's specially for cards, but just on a piece of paper. As you can see, next to the chips where the contacts are, you can see there's some black dots or an area which is a little whiter. That's where the chip joins the antenna. So the input and output interface meets the chip and the antenna. So what does it look like inside? You can do this, by the way. When one of your credit cards expires, instead of cutting it up, by the way, you have to cut through the chip because payment information is on the chip, not the magnetic strip. So if you cut through the chip, that's so much the better. But if after having cut through the chip or at some moment when it's expired, so you can see it, if you bend it a lot, you pick up the card, you can unstick the chip and you can see how it's made inside. The same if you heat it, you can melt the plastic, because at the end this is just plastic. You just pull the plastic away, and in those cards where there's an antenna, you can see what's inside them. So don't be afraid. Just cut it up when it's no longer valid, or just play with it. The first card that I had at the university, the first thing I did was break it and pull out the chip. And today this chip, 17 years later, is still stuck to the same place, which is at the bottom of my computer screen. I know it's a bit weird. Some people put an R2D2 model on their computer, but I have the first chip. So what you need to do, if you work in the world of technologies, lose fear of it. Normally, you can find a solution to any technological problems, so don't be afraid. The photos at the bottom are manufacturing environments. You can go to the National Mint, and I've been lucky enough to go to the National Mint. I've also gone to an assembly factory, and you can see how the cards are printed, how the chips are printed. It's an experience for somebody who works in this world that maybe understand many of the problems, because people started talking about, oh, dual cards, contactless cards, and people didn't see that initially it didn't work, and then eventually you realized what the problem was and why the problem was just internally, and that's when you realize the work that's behind for manufacturing and designing and making all of these. I'm now going to get a bit more technical so that you can see what I do when I get around to the demo, if I've got time for it. Here we've got a card, which is a dumb device. A card is a dumb device. It's like a slave within a communication. That is, they have no batteries. That means on their own right, they don't do anything. They need some kind of energy. And to feed them, you put it into a reader. And to communicate with it, what I have is a client, and the client gives it a command called APDU. I want you to remember these, APDU. It may well be that you're never going to program a card, but I'm sure somebody's picked up an Android mobile and to see if you could communicate with the card. When you read the API for Windows 10 or Android, you'll see this word which says APDU. It's the Application Protocol Data Unit. I'm not going to go too technical. If you want to come to my office, I'll explain it to you. My door is only open, but I'm not going to explain it now. And if I go back to university this summer, I'll be giving a course about this, a little bit more advanced and a little bit more in depth. But what you have is a headline and then a series of data that is sent to the card, and the card returns data to me. Sometimes all it has to do is to say that I've done things properly, and it tells you the state of the operation. Just information. if in any time you start working on this, when SW1 and SW2 is in X decimal, or if it's 9000, it's 2 bytes with 9000. That means that what you've done is right. It's the code that means everything has gone fine. But basically, if these systems are certified, this in the end is the message that the card returns to us to say that everything is correct. Just to give you an idea. And now I'm saying to you that the card is a dumb device. It's a slave device. It needs to be fed. And when I feed my card, the card, to know that it's activated, the card has to say, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready. I can now return things. So at that moment, the card, what it does, it sends a message called ATR, answer to reset. This message returns information, which in the end is information about the protocols, the times, and the way physically what sort of protocol I should use. From that moment onwards, I can start exchanging messages. That is, the application sends an APDU to the reader goes to the card collects it within the card. There's this APDU processor, which shares, if it's APDU is type 1, I do this. If it's type 3, I do this. It's just like a dispatcher, where depending upon the instruction code, it does one thing or another. And as a result of this operation, which is called a function, you get the response, and you get it in the application. And then the client will decide what to do. So the card just obeys orders. That's all it does. So what you've got is a processor, a chip. It's got memory, etc. So let's start to talk about how this chip works. What's the operating system? What's the features that I have within this card? This is the first idea. The features that we're most used to, even though I say this, all sorts of things can be done. The cards that we have in the university, the banking cards and technology that have allow us, and I always give that example, they allow us to, you can do the Zero game or the sinking the battleship game, and they've got applications for cryptography. For example, our ID number use a cryptographic system with electronic signatures, etc. But just to give you an idea of the fact that the card is like a little mini computer, and you can program it. I can program a calculator. I can program whatever I fancy. It just doesn't just store data in files. So, if the majority of them are based just on storing files safely, these cards are normally just mono application cards. But the ones that we're interested in, and the ones that we've been working on since the year 2000, are multi-application cards.
They're a little bit more expensive, but this compensates the fact that I can do the magic trick. I can put a lot of functionalities. To give you an example of this presentation, I didn't want to talk about the university card, but it has identification, transportation, payments, retention, as electronic signature, and access control. This can be a different application within the card. When I click on Word or I click on PowerPoint, and there's a different application that is opening, well, exactly the same it happens in the card. The only difference, the card has all the threads open at the same time, but they can interact with all the applications in an independent way. With security, the information in an application is going to be seen by the other applications. So there are firewalls between the applications. That's important. if you could be able to do something and have a transportation application or a payment application, and the transportation application is able to take data out of the payment application. That's a problem. The card certifications allow for those security holes. This is not the magic solution, but maybe it's one of the portable, safe devices, one of the best that we can use in the world. People prefer to put it in a USB memory, but it's safer when using a card. So, multi-applications. We are interested by multiple applications. There are many operating systems for this. Some of them are based on .NET, but the most evolved system is Java card. Java. Well, it rings a bell if you know how to program in Java. In just one afternoon, in less than an afternoon, if my students have done it in 2 hours, you can do it too. In one morning, you can do it. You can make a program for a calculator or a program for an application based on the card. You send 2 cards and one operation, and the card will give you the result. 2 plus 3, well, we'll have a result of 5. We could do that. It's a calculator, but it has nothing to do with an electronic signature system or back payment or transportation. Something that I just imagined, a calculator. And I'll show you a demo where I do a hello world. With all the commands, there's a hello world. Saying there's a virus, there's a malware. Very simple programs that we can include in these cards. This architecture is very similar to the one that we find in a Java system. With Java, we have the operating system and the Java virtual machine on top of it. Here you have the proprietary CPU from the X manufacturer, and then the Java card layer that exports an API. We will upload the applications in the card. Let's think. The card in itself is not Uni 7, nothing to do with that. It has no display. The whole of utilities of Java card, that's a set of functionalities offered by Java. The virtual machine should be in just one platform, but in fact there are 2. Part of the virtual machine is the own card in the card, and another one is outside the card in your computer. Plus, the compilation and bytecode generation is done outside. When the code is executable, then the code, I put it in the card. The card just executes. When we do it with a normal virtual machine, there's always conversions. Apart from that, these Java card functionalities plus a specification called Global Platform allows us to unload, download applications, updating the content, and many other things. So, we had a card. It was just a static device with no life. So a no-life device that now we have a device that is alive. Now, because we can change the content in the cards, it can evolve. I could have the university application here instead of making new cards. I could have my card for all my life using this technology. I'm just doing upgrades. Well, your ID card. We had a version 2.0 with contact. Now we have contactless. With upgrades, we could make an updating of the ID card content, but now they've had the security hole, so that's why they're thinking about that. We have public transport, payments, and others. It's an animation. These small squares are different applications. We'll see what is my fair, Disfire, Calypso, but in fact you're using that every day. Then payment, EMV, contact, contactless. You don't know what EMV. When you raised your hand saying, I have paid with this, you paid with EMV. That's in the card. So I generate my first card, my basic card, and this is the multi-applications philosophy. This is the basic card with those applications. Now, I'll give you the university example, because I know it well, because the audience is quite young, and because I suppose there are students here. Have this card. I'm a student in this university, and I say, I go to the University of Alcalá de Henares in Madrid, because one of the speakers was from Alcalá. Okay. I go to that university using the same technology, because we are in this Santander University network and they use the same card. So I go to Alcalá University and I say, oh, give me another card. I want your applications. This card has a cost and I would have to pay again. But if I have multi-applications, I can say, I'll go there because they don't use my fare 4K, but they use this fire. In my university, I didn't have the electronic signature. In Alcalá, they use it, so I can include it. It's about corporate spirit. Sometimes I'm in white, but sometimes I'm in red, and sometimes I have the green jacket from the University of Cantabria. I'm green. I'm from this university. The Alcalá has a blue card. You have a logo saying this is a valid university card. I don't mind the color. It's not about the color of your card. If you pay with your Santander credit card, they say, no, it's blue, I can't accept it. There is a Maestro MasterCard logo or American Express. It's about the layout, it's not about the color, but I love my corporate spirit. I am from the University of Cantabria, but I always belong to a space, and it's here. So it's the same card, and then I go to Madrid, and they say, they don't know that I'm a teacher. I have a card, and I'm a very hard-working people. I'm late. I have to get out of the university because I'm working late. So there's a new application inside, access. Now there's an update. We have an agreement signed with Jim using this technology, and I can put it in the card. Oh, yeah, I say yes, because I'll be in Madrid for 3 months. I love to go to the gym, so I please ask you to put my gym application inside. So I register into the gym, and I have the application inside. With the same card that I used in Santander, now I can do it in Madrid with zero cost. I'm just updating the applications. If I had a store, I could customize my card. This is a multi-application card. And now, let's talk about security. Is this a secure card? Yes. There's nothing secure in this world anyway. Maybe the listeners or people saying, I hacked this card. Of course, some of them have been hacked. But basically, these devices are very safe. They have visual security measures. Sometimes we just show it with a photo, sometimes. So you can show your card with micro-impression, holograms, UV inks. Sometimes there's a signature behind the card. We should sign it, but nobody does it. because we use the chip and pin. We don't sign the receipts, but it would be good to sign them. Somebody said that when the magnetic strip cards were used, he tried to cheat on a supermarket. He bought a TV and he paid. And when he signed, instead of signing, well, the cashier never looks. And well, sometimes you just show your ID. Well, it wasn't the same signature. When the charge came to the supermarket, well, the guy said, I didn't do this purchase. You didn't? No, I didn't buy it with my card. No. What happens? The cashier say, show me the receipt. And the receipt hadn't the same signature. The signature wasn't your signature, so you didn't buy the TV. But it was you. And there's the data protection law that we have. We're going to have a new directive. The data protection law is a new one, and we can ask for our data to be erased. So not all the places do implement the data protection law. So the guy said, take the video from that day when I was paying at this cashier. It was so expensive to look for that video. In fact, he had a free TV and he got the money back. And you see what happens. We're talking about malware, but there's hacking of words. It's about cheating with Spanish and Latin. And we are always trying to cheat. People think like that way. It's a pity. So it's possible to hack a smart card, yes, but we need deep knowledge and big machines. Oh, and there are additional problems, but we need to analyze if the test modes of the cards are habilitated. We need to make an internal analysis of circuits. And now cards don't keep all the data in consecutive memory. So we need to have a machine that allows us to alter the operational mode of the card in order to slow down the functioning. And trying to touch this, to modify it, it's quite difficult. When we open it and when we inject the light, well, the card loses the data if you try to open it. When we communicate with the card, it's about authentic. Yes, it's logic security. To communicate with the card is going to implement a procedures through which there's a mutual authentication need. The reader and the card have to authenticate with specific keys. I think I have time. Apart from that, every time there's a key, these procedures are very common with HTTPS. We're not always using the same key. There's a master key. All the sessions are not going to be seen. And normally these sessions last for a couple of seconds. There are many atomic operations. Either you do everything, either you don't do anything. You remember with the transportation cards in the buses? I had a colleague who was using his bus card very, very slowly, and he could have more travels than those that were included in the card. That's the philosophy of atomic operations. Either it's done, either it's not done. So you can avoid the cheating thing. So we have security domains. Each application runs its own memory space, a sandbox, where everything is executed. Nobody can get to the sandbox unless it's updated in the code itself. Then there are certifications. They're good. CL5 certifications. If it's broken, or if we modify something in the card, this certification is cancelled, and the manufacturer says you've modified it. So certifications are very serious, and they're done with laboratories. So the card is secure. If it's not, if there's a problem, it's their responsibility. It's for the manufacturers and it's for the certifiers. So it's about black box and white box. There are operations into the card, knowing what it has to do, and in other occasions it doesn't know what it has to do. We developed part of the code that was inside this card. Imagine that nobody's certifying this card, nor the code. And I say, you've seen the command. It's a heading and some data. If I take a command, a standard command, and inside my code I say that a random chain of 256 bytes pushes 100 euros in an electronic wallet, you know that nobody would find it. If there are no strong certification processes, it's difficult to find that. So nobody's going to send the cards because it's very slow. It's slower than a computer. I can't use this system in a very rapid way. The 256 bytes, I don't know how many operations we need to check it all, but operations are done according to the code that I give. It's analyzed before a card is put into the market. So there is an inspection, and I think it's quite robust inspection of those features. Then, normally, the card is not used as a single device. It's used as a second factor, a third factor of authentication. So, you know, identification is what I have and what I know and what I am. So my PIN is what I know. The card is mine. And then, if you like it, and I'm not in favor, well, you can still use your finger on your mobile. So I have just one print. If one day I lose this print, people say it's kept in a very secure way. Well, people say it's safe. Wait, I just have one finger. My finger cannot be changed. So today I can assure you that I've never used my finger just in the ID card in Spain because I just can't have another choice. I'm not using my fingerprint. For the passport, I use the fingerprint, but that's all. So, there's another part here. Operations that can be done or cancelled in the cloud, and hardware security modules that are based on hardware. The card is a portable hardware security module. Others are stored in the cloud with big amount of safe data are stored. The problem, well, I don't need to know the algorithms or the cryptographic procedures. This is implemented here. If one day I need to change the cryptographic system, I don't need to change the code. I don't need any update. Somebody's going to update my card. It's more transparent. Now we start the discussion. It's up to you. Do you prefer to use the hardware versus the software? Do you like security and to store data in hardware or in software? Well, that's your choice. I won't have time for the demos. In hardware environments and the software environments, if you use your ID card, people have done their tax return with this electronic certificate. It's a digital certificate, and we kept it in our computer. The talk that we had before with the malware, able to see the content of our computers, what happens? I don't know if you know anything about private and public symmetric key. Our private key is in our computer. Somebody could take the certificate with a private key, and that's the end of it. One day, I had no home, no house, because a person has used that, and my digital ID is my private key. So they've used that information, and they sold my house with a new ID card, with the readers. I didn't speak about cost. But when you put the ID card in the reader, the authentication operations are done within the card. The private key doesn't get out of here. I can lose my private key if I lose my card. You're able to do thorough inspections in the card. You would be able to read the content of the card. There's a security violation is due to a specific library, and then you can obtain the private key, but they couldn't get to the numbers, really. So when we do our tax return and we use the smart card, there's great robustness. It's sure, it's a secure operation. It was us signing those papers. Nobody else can hack our identity. I was talking about cost. What's the cost of these cards? The less expensive is less than €1, and the most expensive, €30 each. These are market values and cost for one unit, because banks buy millions of cards. But your bus card in Santander, it's a Mayfair Classic card. You can buy it for less than €1 in eBay. This card is Java card. You have to request it, and it's around €20 a piece. I can't give them to you because these cards, I use them for my demos and my workshops. But you can see the keys, and you can start working with that. You need a reader for that. What is a reader? This is a contactless reader. This is another one. It's quite big. Well, you can use it at home, but it's not portable. Look, I've got this other reader with the demos. This is it. This is just this part. This is another reader. I use it with the old ID card. This is a contact reader. I put my card here. That's it. Here, this is contactless. I just approach the card. Well, they're very small. The cost. I bought them recently. This is 25 to 30 euros. Then we have more expensive readers. But I tell you, this is the most expensive readers are not the best. It's not just about buying expensive devices. You have to look at the market first and see the functionalities of each reader. With this, I can do operations to transfer data to a mobile. With the one that costs 70 euros, I can't do that much, but from the aesthetic point of view, it's beautiful. I've got it in a box. It's beautiful. It's cooler, but I can't do as many things as with the cheap reader. Any questions? Following? Let's talk. We can talk later. And now let's talk about the other parts. We've talked about security in the cards. And I said I was using this card with a reader, but what's being used more and more is the touch, the contactless technologies. My kids, when they were born, what do? They touch. Babies touch, and everybody knows how to touch things. Oh, we're not going to talk about actors touching ladies. I don't have House of Cards anymore. I'm so unhappy about that. In the past, we had to introduce and insert the card. The problem is that contacts used to get damaged, and I had to find the hole. And now we have the contactless technology, which is easier. I just need to touch it, and it's quite easy. When I get to the bus, I just approach my card from the machine to the machine, and it works. Sometimes I don't even need to get my card out of my wallet because it works perfectly well. Let's see how these contactless technologies work. So we have contactless technologies. It was created in the year 83. It started with the RFID technology. This technology, radio frequency technology, worked in the 860 to 960 megahertz. That's the frequency range, depending on the countries. With several meters distance, that's a coverage, with very small memories and limited processing capacity. These tags, because in fact there were stickers or tags, I'm always doing publicity. If you go to Decathlon, or all the T-shirts, all the objects that you buy, you put them into a box, and it's got a tag RFID. It sticks to the objects that we buy. It's the label. And now it's going to replace barcodes. Well, it's not that easy as printing a piece of paper, but this is going to replace barcodes. And this is the dream of each supermarket customer. I put my things in my caddy, and when I go through the cashier, I don't need to get the things out. And the machine says 100 euros. So I'm saving time. It's burdensome when you have to get everything out and everything in again. So it's easy. And then you just need to approach your card, and it will tell you the total amount of your bill. Sometimes you need to do many operations, but here it's going to be easier. So with this type of labels, it's easy. Then we have the proximity and vicinity cards with another frequency range, 13.56 megahertz. When frequencies changes, we can have more range or less range, several meters. It's 13.56 megahertz. So the distance, the reading distance is reduced to meters to centimeters. And that's an advantage, and it's good for security in contactless cards. The reading distance is very short. Here, the theoretical, 1 meter to 1.5 meters. And these cards are used in the ski stations for the forfait when you ski. These are the labels. The contactless smart cards respect the ISO 14443 A or B. The theoretical reading distance is 15 centimeters, and there's one 6 centimeters. I need a big reader, but normally it's 5 centimeters. What we do when we go into the bus, we always touch it. And normally people start to push it and to press it, but you don't need it. You just approach it to the reader, and it's okay.
So the only thing that you need to do is to get it near to the device. And what do you do with that? It has to be you that puts the card near the reader. And you're not putting it inside the machine. It's not like when you use a Bluetooth. If you've got a Bluetooth in your mobile, if I've got that activated, people know that I've been here, so that they know that I've got this card. You have to get near the reader. And if not, it's impossible. So remember that it's part of the security that allows us to have this. Another part is, as you've seen, this doesn't give off a great deal of energy to be able to feed this card. So these are systems that consume very little. And that means that our batteries last longer. They're active or passive. And if it's an passive element, and in this case, cards are dumb, you could even manage to pay when you didn't have battery in your mobile with the systems that we have now. You could do it with the systems that we have now. Card technologies, these are just some of the most well-known ones. The most well-known one is MyFair. Then you've got MyFair Classic, MyFair Desfire, that have different memory capacities, but they're standardized. If you look in internet, you can find all different information about this. For example, I've got access to Desfire, and in the one that I've got Desfire, and there's a watermark with my name on it, and so you can avoid filtering. So MyFair Classic, if you look for MyFair Classic or MyFair Ultralight, you'll find them. There's something I want you to see here, which is they're proprietary, and some are the B type. Your ID card is a B type. But when they send the APDUs, they still operate in the same way. But as for the radio signal, that's slightly different. I've only got half an hour left, so I won't go into that. So we've got cryptography. Of course, we're talking here about security, and you can see that the Ultralight Classic have an algorithm which says crypto. Can you see it? Crypto. But DES, you've probably heard of DES, yeah? And I think it's tomorrow or one day there's a talk about DES. So we say standard or non-standard, and we go back again. Cards should follow standard systems, although classic MyFair cards follow standards at level 1 and at level 2 and level 3. They don't really meet the standard, but when they get to level 4 they don't care, and they add a different level of commands. And then XP, I said they'd also have DESFIs, and they use a standard security algorithm, and they meet 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the level that APDUs traditionally sent. If you Google or Bing or Yahoo, if you look in internet, you'll see classic MyFair security's been broken, violated, and even so we use it virtually every day. We pay our bus for that, and the same we do in Cantabria. They do in about 20,000 million places around the world. There are lots of access controls still use this. What I mean is that it's been violated, and we'll see the consequences of this. What we have to say is that, there's a security failure. How many people are going to make use of this hole in security? Because, it's not like a Trojan. In this case, people that do this are going to have a certain kind of technical characteristics. It's a device that you have to have. they're going to try and sell you cards that will allow you to access to God knows where, but the devices that are in the cards that can also be connected to internet. And the other thing I didn't say, which I forgot, is that cards normally have a unique identifier, and I can't rewrite it. It's written from factory, it's printed on the chip. So there's a part that you can't hack. So if I do a game with whitelists and blacklists, even though the security algorithm's been broken, if there's somebody trying to prevent my bus pass amount not going down, you can always get it to be constant. But when they check their balance to see that the balance of this gentleman is always the same and they're always traveling on the bus, the intelligence environments will detect that there's been a security problem, this traceability that we spoke about earlier. So in the end, there's a whole set of things so that even if the algorithms have been broken, you can still use it. What's a MyFair Classic card look like? We've already seen the Java card. The thing is, this have a memory structures like the one that you can see on the screen. It's a linear structure. The previous speaker showed us a book about the assembly of the 8086. I used the Motorola, which had a linear memory. You had a pointer and you had to gradually move things. The memory was linear and it was all very easy. But here what we've got is the same thing. We've got some cards with a linear memory. Here I'm limited to the memory capacity that I have and how it's organized. And it's organized in the way you can see in the screen, where I've got 16 sectors, each with 4 blocks. And each block has 16 bytes. So you add it all up, the card memory has 1K. And that means I can authenticate both the reader and the card. So it's the sort of a control access. But if you don't know the password or the PIN number, you can't connect. To do that, there are 2 keys, key A and key B, and access conditions. If you can write in a specific block, in this way you can block the features. If you can't do it, the card will just reject it. Or it would say error. That's where mutual authentication comes from. And that's where the crypt algorithms problems come from, because it's a proprietary algorithm of NXP, and a university, a Dutch university, started to analyze mathematically how the crypto algorithm works. And they found that from a certain number of operations onwards that were faulty, they were able to find out the system keys. So from the number of faults, you can end up finding the correct. So, and that meant that they were able to deduce the keys. That took them a while initially, but actually you can now get them fairly easily. So please, be ethical. Don't do these sort of things just for the fun of it. You can investigate in internet, but I'm not going to give you any sort of references to these kinds of things. I've always told my students when they do this that if you're caught and you go to trial, then I will not be there to defend you. In fact, completely the opposite. We've all got our business, and we don't like people upsetting us, so don't upset other people. So nobody complains about using a certain browser, but they earn lots of money from us. So let's leave that to one side. So that was broken in 2008. The solutions were, instead of having different keys, you could create different keys for each card, or getting the content in the card's content, even though it isn't encrypted. I can encrypt it for every operation that I use and can store it in different accounts. There are different alternatives so that even the way we authenticate with a card is being broken, I can still do it. In any case, NXP said that instead of using the non-standard procedure, which is crypto, I'm going to use more standard ones. So they issued some new cards called MyFair Plus, which is the same as MyFair Classic, but instead of using crypto, they use ICE 128. But what happens is that all the systems that are out in the street, they don't use ICE, they use the crypto system. And unless you go to a big city, for example, which has 500 buses and that uses this thing, maybe they've got 500 buses and they say you need to invest on the charging machines, the adding up machines, and a whole load of cards just to get the white list and separate from the black lists. And I'll bet you that not 10 cities will do that, of all the cities in the world. And in fact, this has happened in Santander. Some guys did this, and they actually got caught selling cards. They only managed to get 20,000 euros for this. So there are lots of zeros here, and some of the things that I've been doing, I've managed to get official card keys, and I could have loaded my card with thousands and thousands of euros and nothing would happen. But you've got to be professionally ethical. And I want to carry on working. There's no point. What's interesting here is to have this ethics, and at least, and I say this from a viewpoint of a more adult person, you need to be ethical when you do things. So we've got this other card there, which instead of using fixed identifiers of 4 or 7 bytes, or you can also use random ones. So if you use random identifiers, that gives you additional security, because let's imagine it's an access control which is just based on the card's identifier ID. If it reads my ID, when I go near the reader, I can find a way of replicate it, and I go to the reader and I go in. But if the identifier that I get is random, then first I have to authenticate, and if I have to authenticate, I need the keys, and I can't get them that easily. You need a little bit more time. So it's a while that you'd have to be near the reader, and people would realize what you were doing. And then there are other people that buy these metallic wallets so that their cards can't be deactivated. But their insurance, if people start stealing your money, you can actually ring up your insurance company, and as long as you let them know, they'll give you all the money back. That's why we've changed to chips, because there was a moratorium, I think it was for 2005. There was a moratorium in which if you carried on using a magnetic strip, Visa and MasterCard wouldn't reimburse the amount. It would have to be the banks and savings banks. That's why the chips were introduced. Okay, we're coming to the final part. I've just got 20 minutes left. I won't have time for demos. If you're interested in, we could do it at another time. Contactless technology. Let's now look at near-field communication, which is what we have in a telephone. This is a telephone that's about 4 years. And I didn't start using these sort of things until 2006. Imagine for how long we could have had all of this in a mobile phone. But there's somebody that's saying, no, no, and we don't know why. I don't know why all this technology isn't in one phone. So let's see, look at our cards. And they've got to a saturation point, the amount of services that they offer, because something that's missing. And what's missing in the card? What you need is a screen and a keyboard. And nowadays, if I don't communicate with the exterior, it's useless. So if I take this to an environment, which is the mobile environment, the amount of operations and things that I could do with a card would multiply exponentially. So if you've got an idea, come to me, we'll share it, we can launch it, and we'll get 50-50 or 70-30, that's fine. Many people say, oh, what can we do? What can we do? And it may well be that I can't see any other uses, but there are probably people out there that can see other uses. So if you've got any ideas, you can make a mint. Here's some figures. They're from 2014, but it's the penetration of mobile technology. How many people in this room do not have a mobile phone? Please raise your hand if you don't have a mobile phone. We've all got a mobile phone. And of these mobile phones, between the ages of 18 and 24, this is 2014, so you can imagine it's people middle age. So the penetration of mobile phone is very high. If we look at the bottom figure, which is the expectations of mobile phones that have NSCC technology, what you have to do is say that Apple did Apple Pay. And with iPhone 10, and I think with iPhone 8, you can now not just pay, but also read cards with your phone, which is great. They've opened a little bit of their system. I haven't got an Apple iPhone 10 yet, because I don't have any millions to buy it. But I would like to trial it just to see the interface. I've seen it in YouTube, but it's not the same as seeing it in reality. It's like Samantha on the telly says, it's not the same living it as saying it. What are we going to see? We're going to go from this wallet. There's all these operations, because the card can also have health information in it. There are projects which can have my data and create apps to say that, for example, if I'm diabetic, I'm not, but imagine that I am. And I have an anaphylactic shock. And somebody has to ring an ambulance. When the ambulance comes, they don't know if I'm diabetic or not, and I can't tell them whether I am or not. But perhaps you could have a card where, in addition to say that I'm diabetic, it tells them what sort of medicine I take, and that would be securely stored, that information, where only the health personnel will have the keys to access and read them, because that's the person that's going to save my life. And obviously I'm not going to close the port to my card. That is, your life records are kept safely. This is something that we did, I think 10, 12 years ago, and this project is used with PDAs. Imagine all doctors these days have a mobile, and sometimes if you go to hospital, you go to the A&E, the doctor is usually playing with a WhatsApp at the same time as treating you. And the same with my students. There's some students out there in the audience that I know are just playing with their WhatsApp, and I know that's what they're doing. So, for me, the mobile phone, there's always one in these talks. Sorry, that was a joke. We're going to go from having a wallet to a normal wallet. Let's have a wallet in a mobile. It doesn't mean you put your mobile in your wallet, although there are lots of people do that. No. What we want is for the cards to be in the mobile. That is, you have a digital wallet, so you can pay with your phone in real time. So, but you can't do everything. If you want to put a card in your phone, there's certain examples of which you can't use. You can't just take a photo and say, I've got my card in the phone because I've got a photo. It's not the same security, the same information. The information that I've stored safely isn't there. So you can use a QR code, but if you put a QR code which is static, I'm always going to give the same information. So why don't I just take a photo of the wallet? For example, there's an app for the mobile, and I use a non-Apple, non-Android mobile phone, and I don't have an app for this store. And I don't have an app for this store, I can't keep my discount card in the phone, when the only thing that the discount card here is a barcode. So if I take a photo of my barcode and put it on the screen, it'll do the same thing, because there's no additional security, because the lady at the cash desk has said, no, you can't use it.
So I'm going to complain with have no answer for the reasons why I needed to have that. I'm going to be injected with advertising. It's visual with a card. What I want you to know is that we have something else more inside. This part changes, and we have it with the NFC technology. So the NFC technology allows us it's short range, in fact, instead of wireless technology. I put this technology within chips. So we have a chip. All the logic part, I put it in the chip, and I can put it within specific devices. Instead of in a card, I can put it in the mobile as a sensor, or wearable, or anywhere, if somebody can integrate that for me. So I have an added functionality. It's compatible. It uses the same frequency band and the same communication protocols that I use with my cards. It offers us what the cards don't have: heterogeneous interfaces, a keyboard, a display, etc. I have what I didn't have before. I can have my card in a specific device that is not plastic. It's embedded in another system. In this case, a mobile phone. But we can use wearables. If you have an Apple Watch, you can get close to the card and you can pay, because there's an NFC chip inside. So this is stupid device, because it needs a reader, because my mobile phone is not stupid anymore. So let's think. Okay, instead of having an NFC, instead one mode, which is card emulation. My mobile phone works as a card. Well, my mobile phone can be a reader. I can get my card close and near the phone, and it can be a reader. And then I can pay, and I can take and get one phone near another device, and they can do operations between them. The peer-to-peer communication, it's the typical examples of loudspeakers. You put the phone on top of the loudspeaker, and it's connected by Bluetooth with no keys. It's done with NFC technology. There's data exchange from a phone to another device that can be a loudspeaker. Here you have this usage case. One day in the a day in the life of a user. I wake up, I see my agenda, I go to the underground, I pay for my breakfast, and instead of finding a QR code, which is static, and if it's painted over, I can't read the QR code. It's not infrared camera. If I have the NVC label, I can do it. So I get near this place, and I get interactive advertising. I can have a free trip on the bus. It's an interactive operation. Then I go to my office and I say, look, I'm going to give you the tickets that I bought yesterday. It's not with a QR code. It's a secure ticket, a digital ticket. It's not about this QR being scanned. I could have been like you. If I give you this, nobody's going to check it because there's no additional information with no photo, etc. So I go to the cafeteria and I pay with my mobile phone, and then I need to go shopping. Instead of doing my shopping list, I can go to a place where I get near the labels, like Amazon Dash. This device, well, in fact, you could have won €5. It was won by Amazon with for €1. You could buy some of them and have free vouchers. I have enough devices in my office, so I don't need it. So you can pair it up. Instead of having the Amazon Dash, I can use my mobile phone directly. I go home at night, and I say, oh, the phone is on my table. And normally we sleep near our phone. It's bad. Because if I get a WhatsApp at 3 in the morning, I'm going to answer, radiations are bad for your brain, so don't sleep near your mobile phone. So I even switch my Wi-Fi off during the night. So I would use the phone here. I put it on the table, and there's a label or information which will say automatically it's plane mode. Just the alarm for the alarm clock is working. When I get to my car, Bluetooth is activated. Connect to your car. I put a label. I get near to the label, and Bluetooth is activated thanks to my mobile phone. It's car mode, so that you don't get the SMSs. The display might change for big buttons to appear. All these actions we can automate because the mobile is a reader of labels. We can do many other things. The first thing that I used to do within NVC environment, it was about the washing machine. I don't need to open it up to have a contact. Normally, electronic devices have LCD displays, but in the past there were just lights. And when you called to the repair service, the people asked you, what is the light of this in red or in green? Now I get my mobile phone near to my washing machine. The NVC protocol allows for this communication. There's a transfer. Then I push send, and the technical service guy receives the full status of my washing machine. It appears on the display. So the person there, the repair guy, knows what happens to my washing machine. I send you a technician, and he knows what's your problem. Just one person coming one time, just once. We can do that. We can configure our Wi-Fi. I didn't know that the key was that, but somebody told me I had to type it. We could have labels at the entrance saying, put your NVC phone near to this label, and then automatically your Wi-Fi is configured. This type of actions, we can do that with a simple thing, your touch phone. There are commercial solutions. These are the differences between QR codes and NFC. Here, maybe this is biased through and towards NFC technology. For NFC, it's fine. It requires an application. Yes, because the reading of NFC phone when it says requires application, it's very positive. It doesn't require it, in fact, to read labels. There is embedded applications in the operative system in your phone. When you get near the bus, near the bus stops, you have labels and says Mar Santander. There's a QR code, and if you get your phone closer to these NFC labels, it's going to give you an URL. It's going to connect directly to a site saying so many minutes until the bus gets to this bus stop. With a QR code, it works. But if I'm late, and I put a spray or an ink on top of the QR code, doesn't work anymore. In the QR, it needs an application because there's no standard protocols. So we need to download an application because mobile phones do not incorporate these applications. Others don't read anything. Here you see the usability of these two types of technologies. It's better to touch it than to need too many actions for the same purpose. NFC is better. Cost, it's a little bit more expensive. But at the end of the day, it's value added, it's durability. The NFC label, I can rewrite it when I want. I can block it, but I can rewrite it if I want. The QR code, I have to put everything down, the bus stop, the post, and then to reprint it. And I need to keep the format. So it's better to use a label with a logo. It's nice and beautiful. And I don't need to use this QR with black boxes. And now, this is the part about the security. The mobile as a reader, okay? The mobile phone as emulator. Even if you can't believe this, well, you have already your smart card in your mobile phones. Here, in the whole world, we have a square thingy. Movistar, Vodafone, Amena, Orange, MásMóvil, and these telephonic operators give us a SIM card. A SIM card is a smart card. This smart card, used by telephone operators, in fact, gives it to us because it's a multi-application card. I can download a lot of applications to these smart cards in a SIM card. So I sell you the space inside the card, and maybe you have to pay for that. This SIM card is linked to your mobile phone. You have different alternatives. This is to understand Apple Pay. SIM card is perfect for me. It's the perfect case. If it's a white card, and I can change my operator in a rapid way. If there's a market where I can download or make operations in a secure way. Because SIM cards are in all mobile phones until now. Maybe this is going to be just a chip, but it's full of potential. I'll do it with an application changing the possibilities of the SIM. Samsung and Google Nexus S phone, they had an embedded element, but it's controlled by the manufacturer of the phone. I sent emails to Google to have the keys in order to save information in that mobile phone, but they didn't say anything to me. We can have micro SDs, added elements in a phone. It could become a smart card. But these elements are very sensitive because that's where we keep our photos, etc. If I don't have a big capacity, I don't accept it. And micro SDs with NFC, with an emulator, well, the memory capacities are very limited. So, we don't like these systems. It's not very comfortable. the micro SD in our mobile phone. Sometimes it's difficult to get there, and batteries are hiding the signal. So it's not very comfortable. It's not effective. So somebody had an idea. It's not Google which invented this. The first to implement this were BlackBerry people. It's called host card emulation. Instead of emulating the card within a hardware environment, I emulated within the software environment. It's in a software environment, so nobody has the control. I do my application, put it in the market, and open a range of possibilities to do the card emulation operation. How does it work? BlackBerry started with this several years ago. And then Google with a KitKat Android version that was done by Google. And then Google Wallet started, and Apple had the idea to have Apple Pay, but it was closed. But then similar procedures were standardized, and Visa and MasterCard started to do that. How does it work? I have my mobile phone with a secure element. I have a SIM card that's secure with an NFC controller, and I have a CPU. When I put my phone near a reader, what happens? If I just have secure elements, just the SIM card, the controller, when I select the application of a card, is going to go to the secure element. But if I have activated the Husker emulation, HCE, then the microcontroller says, I have an application that is registered in software mode. So it says yes or no. If it's yes, it's bypassed, and it sends me to my app. It's an Android app. I have another demo. And the software then is activated, and I can do anything. My smart card can work in my app, or can be run in my app, and the whole of my smart card works in the cloud. I send the data in a secure mode with encryption, and it can get to an HSM, which is a hardware security module, and with this security, it can keep my information secure. What I do with HCE is, in fact, the US apps that go to the smart cards, now they go to Android or to iOS 10, whatever, Windows 10. You can use it in a software environment. It works in Windows 10 because I'm a user. I'm still using Windows. So I have that into my mobile application. And then I have procedures that are very similar to those that I programmed into the card. If I program the card, I just need to change the apps names, the API names. And then I can put it in an application or open a communications channel through the internet. And that's where the advantages are. I can have more implementation possibilities because I don't need to go through certifications. But I would need to have certifications. It's good, but there are drawbacks when using NVC. The SIM card, if I didn't have battery in my phone, I could continue to pay because it's a card. It doesn't need any battery. So I can activate the SIM in my phone without a battery. But if I'm doing something and I need a communications interface to the external world, I need the battery. So I don't have enough battery for everything. So there we have a problem of battery. What happens when it's switched off? We can't do the operations. There's a lack of interoperability. It's standard because it's according to a standard, but we can't use the Mayfair Classic cards. And there's another problem. In all software environments, it's open to attacks, malware, etc. These malware attacks could be avoided while trying to creating a specific environment in our phones. These are environments when you root the phone, they are closed so that nobody can open them. If we use these operations, we can minimize the risk, but there's always a risk. So we emulate the card. So we have the phone, but I had an Apple Watch or this Huawei or a smart band with NFC. It's the same. I put the chip inside and I can do anything. The user is going to decide the one I prefer. I'm finishing now because it's only 3 minutes to 8 p.m. I'm not going to do the demos. How mobile payment works. You can use it with a Visa or Apple Pay. Instead of using the card only, there's a token. In fact, it's virtualizing the card. Instead of generating or keeping in my phone number, then my real card number, I ask and I request a token to my bank. I send my card number, send me tokens that are virtual tokens. These tokens have information related to the maximum amount of money that I can pay. It can be only linked to my mobile if I lose it, or I can use it for 2 hours, or this is the content of tokens. And I can download the tokens in my phone, and I use tokens to pay. When I pay, I give the token to the TPV. The TPV covers the network and it matches the token that it has received with the number of, well, the real card number. The token and the card number is given to the bank and the bank validates this operation. It's okay, you can pay. If it works, it's fantastic and the payment is done. So we are emulating a part of a smart card with tokens, and we send tokens. And that's the end of my presentation. Just conclusions. The smart card is one of the most secure devices today. We can guarantee that. The great question, why? Because I have a lot of cards in my pocket, and if I wanted, I would prefer to have just a single card. Technology allows for this, even though it's a secure element. I'm not going to say it, but I think it's possible. There might be security problems. It's not a magic recipe. And the last, if I forget my wallet, I don't want to go home again. But if I forget my phone, I go home. I go back home. If you leave your card home, there's no problem. But if you forget your mobile phone, you go back to recover it. So if it's in my mobile phone, my cards will be there, and our mobile is our extension. I have a philosophy. When I speak with a colleague and there's a WhatsApp and he starts to answer the WhatsApp, I go around and I go away because I'm not talking to you while you're answering a WhatsApp. You don't need to answer immediately. You can wait for a minute, but now I'm wasting my time with you. So we need to have social interaction, not social networks or social media. I can say I'm a very handsome person and I'm a rich man, but in fact I'm lying. So social interaction is what I'm looking for. It's good for people here and online. People have listened to me. We've been interacting. This is one of the lessons I want to convey. And last but not least, this is my great question. When are we going to avoid plastics? Because it's always in plastic. I don't know when plastic cards will disappear. I thought there was going to be no plastics now, but in fact, we don't have the new situation when we can just forget about plastic. I'll be very happy when we don't need any cards of this type. I'll be very happy and very safe. I can open my car with my mobile phones, or when booking a car, I can send the key to my mobile and then I can open the car. the many functions that we can use with my card or allowing our phone to read smart cards. It's your imagination. These applications will be successful thanks to you. And that's the end. Thank you. My contact, Alberto's contact, this is the observatory, the address. If you want to contact us, if you want to ask questions, please write to me. If I don't know the answer, I'll be very honest. I'll say I don't know, and I'll try to look for an answer. If you're interested, sometimes we organize courses in university and in other universities. We show the demos that I couldn't show you today, and I'm sorry for that because I didn't have time. I was going to show you the application, but after the streaming, I'll be with you if you want to see it. It's 2 hours. It's a long time. It wasn't easy.
Dime, ¿tiene una pregunta el señor?
There's a question.
Que no sea difícil, que ya estoy.
I'm tired. I was up at 6 in the morning. Good afternoon. You gave us a master class of how cards work. But in our society, we are, in fact, two types of customers. The young customers and the old customers. How many old people, or how many people more than 50 years of age are here in the room? The telephone penetration curve. And what is the university doing for oldies? But the University of Cantabria, it's our university, we don't have a program for oldies, for those who want to get initiated in these technologies. Yes, you have the senior program. The senior program, well, gives you something else, but not this. Somebody should explain to us what the technology is all about, how these devices work. In university, there's nothing for us. I went to the secretariat because I am a teacher, and we didn't need this smart card because the mathematics teacher knew us all. We didn't need a card because we were few students. I wanted the university to have something for old people, a simple thing or intermediate thing between the use and the theory. The university says that I have to register for all the subject matters. I cannot just pick one or two subject matters. What is the answer of university? Who's the person I could contact? Yes, there are dissemination activities in university, not just degrees or master's program. For instance, for this smart cards topic, last year we organized a course, summer course, like WIMP courses. These are specialization courses for specific topics. We organized this course for smart cards. And apart from what I just said, this course was 20 hours long. And I had very good feedback. They would have needed like 30 hours, a 2 weeks course, because I didn't have time. These courses are more for dissemination, to teach this technology. Sometimes it's just mental elucubrations and it's a bit crazy, but sometimes I feel that I'm more an engineer than a researcher. But I want my research to be applied in the streets. That's why we're here. I come here to show you something that you use every day so that you can understand it. So we have courses, summer courses. We have the science weeks, and we have other activities that are organized from time to time, visits. And additionally, I can give you an example because I have students here. You have my email and my phone number. If you have any technology query and questions, please ask me and come to my classes because you are invited. Maybe people in university are going to be very, very cross at me. People are paying for the degree course, but I do online courses. It's called Open Courseware, These are online courses in the website of the university. And this is the same in other Spanish universities and in the US. You have EDX platforms, Myriads, Coursera, etc. You have courses, the university courses. Even if you don't believe me, there's a guy giving courses. Well, I watched it. I watched videos, the machine learning courses. There are interesting online courses through videos. It's not done in our university. We have online courses on machine learning that are for free, they're open, but they don't give you the degree. Normally you pay registration for the degree. But you can go and listen to the classes, to the courses. But there's a list of courses that you can choose. My job in the university is not secured, not more than 3 years, so maybe I'm a nothing in university. So it depends more on the high spheres. If you people want to learn more, they would need to allow you to pay your registration fee for specific subject matters or for specific lectures. How does WhatsApp work? What about Internet of Things? We'll teach how this works. We do it in our courses, and I do agree with you. Instead of registering for the full courses, you could pick one specific subject matter. Maybe you can do it. My recommendation is that you have to go to the university or online courses, summer courses, science weeks, with people like us that do dissemination, and then we can be in contact. We're not a shell. We're not a closed shell. We are open to society. We just love it. We've done a lot of videos showing how this the smart city works. The news services have followed us. We've taken part in conferences and congresses. This is free here today, you see? This course, even if you don't believe me, and I told a colleague what I've done it in my practice, in my tuition. When I did this several years ago, and the price was thousands of euros. I had to pay thousands of euros for this. And now it's free. This is a very specific technology. All these talks, in fact, this is done by university. And I honestly think that university is offering activities of this type. And I can offer you what I can. If I have time, okay, we can sit down together on Saturday, and then I can go with you, and I'll say hello to my wife, and I will explain, and I answer your questions. Alberto would do the same. We are ready. University does tuition and research, but dissemination, it's what people ask for. And sometimes what people ask for, it's not something that people give. We are assessing us. We are assessed through the dissemination products, which are called articles. And those articles are not read by people like you, but a blog is read by many people. If I do YouTube videos and blogs, this is more appreciated than specific articles, because I'm talking to people in the street. People have to understand what we do in university. Let's explain what we do in university. We're not stealing your money in university. We work a lot.
This presentation has taken me time, and there are sometimes I leave work at 3:30 a.m. so that I could have this presentation ready. Have I been paid to come here? No. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Here, the people and Alberto and Cantabria University, I would do it on behalf of anybody. So please, never, ever say to me that the university doesn't do sufficient, because it's not true. What you're saying is going to be recorded. And I'm saying on Monday, I may go to the rector and I'll say to the rectors, look what happened to me when I talk, in a talk. It's not so much that it's not done, it's more that we don't know about it. But the fact that you don't know about it, when the university has a communication service, and I'll talk to them. Those are the people that have to do the, I can't do the marketing. I've got a group of friends who are already retired, but they're youngsters between the ages of 50 and 70s, and we're all completely unaware of IT. My mum's 70-something, and she, when the telly doesn't work, she calls me. But there are many times people, I just tell you about my mum. My mum's never going to learn this, but there are people like you who are prepared to learn. I'd be more than happy to teach you on a Saturday. Please, if it's something that I know, call me. I'm leaving. There you go. It's recorded what I'm saying. I'm not lying. Sorry, you're going to kill me. There's another question at the... Let's perhaps... I should have finished at 8. It's 8:10. And I can see the face of the technicians. And I don't know what time they close this building. Okay, truly. There, you've got my contact details, please. If you want to know about cards, please contact us. Come to the IT building of Canterbury University. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to be able to see you back here another year. Thank you.